Welcome to another amazing episode of the Virtual Engagement Ideas Summit. Our very special guest today joins us from Chicago, Illinois. Greg, how are you today? It's good to see you.
Hey, I'm doing well.
Good.
Been gone for a couple weeks to Michigan.
Yeah.
Take a little breather, and roll down the windows in the car with the tunes on. And I have a new sunroof, so that was kind of nice. So
New sunroof. That's
you know,
awesome.
we all need to take our own time.
I know, that's great. Let me tell everybody about you. You are a national lecturer on LGBTQ civil rights and equality. You're also an educator, writer, storyteller, novice filmmaker. I want to ask you about that, and a social activist. Greg is an engaging speaker with a heart and humorous insight. He has spoken to audience on such topics as equal rights, inclusion, acceptance, community, gender, bullying, hate crimes, and you are a very important part of the LGBTQ community. And I'm honored to have you as a guest here today. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's open up the sunroof and go for a ride.
Good.
How have things changed from when you first came out?
That's a great question, because when I was younger, I came from a very I don't want to say it was more than spiritual. I mean, we were churchgoers, but there was a belief in religion and things like that. So, but it wasn't like real staunch, but there was a belief there. So it caused a lot of bigotry and prejudice within my family. And kind of interesting little fact, and I mentioned this during my programs, is that my parents could not conceive children, so they adopted two boys, not at the same time. My brother's birthday is today.
Oh, cool.
And he just retired yesterday, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we're both adopted from different families, and we're both gay. So they got a double whammy, and I always tell everybody that's a huge blessing. And so during that time, it was hard not to be yourself, and when you're not yourself and not being fully human, it causes a lot of problems for you, all sorts of things. So mine was, I ate my way through high school and the beginning of college. I was a big boy up until probably 2006 when I lost 80 pounds. So, I always tell everybody I lost a third grader, So things have changed a lot. We were in the closet, running to go to a gay bar to and from because you thought you were going to be mugged or beaten up. Not being able to talk about you and just being you and incorporating, being gay was part of it, but you're human and there's so many other factors playing that. So now, years ago, I used to speak about coming out issues, and students and college students, university students liked it. My story is pretty unique, but now the coming out story, it's not even a big deal anymore. It's more about gender issues and things like that. So it's fascinating to watch young people, and I get messages often from parents like, oh, my 9-year-old daughter has come out being a lesbian. And I was like, and I think about when I was young, like, oh my gosh, that didn't even cross my mind then. And in high school, there was no way I would have came out because I was in the thumb area, Michigan shaped like a mitt. We all hold our hands up. I was in a very small farming town, and that would never had happened in my high school in fear of being bullied and beaten and ostracized. So when I hear of that, I always think, do they have support? How are their families at home? Are they supportive at home? Are they loving? Are they inclusive? So I see more and more young people have come out and take the realm and gone with it. And even, transgender students or people trying to figure their gender and their gender identity out. And you never talked about those kind of issues then. I didn't know what transgender was, when I was 14, 15 on up,
So there has been a really amazing evolution, but right now with the pandemic, going home for a lot of students may not have been an easy thing.
Correct.
For a lot of people, going home is wonderful, right? But for the LGBT community, not always.
So say you're a high school student and you graduate from your community and you may not be out. Maybe your best friend knows, or
Yeah.
maybe your mother knows, but your mother hasn't told your father, something like that. So you go to college, and I'm going to give an example. When I did, I went to Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, and there's all these resources that you have, and there's now maybe 1, 2, or 3, maybe more different kinds of clubs or organizations that you could be social, like an LGBTQ group, a transgender, an affirmations, a queer group, whatever. You know, there's a variety of these, which are incredible. So when you go to these meetings, you finally muster up, you know, some gumption to go, and you, you know, you tell yourself, I'm a queer person, or I'm gay, lesbian, however you identify. You go to these meetings, you meet other like-minded individuals. So you create those, you know, your found family, your extended family.
Yeah.
And those relationships happen, and you see them often. And it was a much different atmosphere at your school than it was being at home.
Gotcha.
So when the pandemic hit and threw everything, the world, we went into the upside down room. A lot of the LGBTQ students that were out at college or the university now had to change gears, excuse me, and go home to where they didn't have those resources and didn't have that community.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, where do I find this now? There's no meetings every week. There's no movie. There's no drag queen bingo.
Yeah.
And being a marginalized group, you impact that. That's another layer. So, you know, you've lost all those. You still may have the connections, but you don't have the physical, which we're all missing, regardless if you're LGBTQ or not. So
right. And but you've also, I mean, because of that, because of your awareness of that, you've been sort of at the forefront of creating the virtual communities for the marginalized communities. Right. And so, tell me about some of the events that you've been doing, or some of the events that you've seen that are really inclusive, that are helpful for schools. Okay.
Well, when the pandemic hit, you know, speakers, presenters literally had to scramble to figure out where this temporary new world was going to be. So my programs, I'm really, I work the stage back and forth. You know, I'm not behind a podium the whole time, that kind of thing. So I'm like, you know, am I going to do that here in my chair, you know, or whatever kind of thing. So, and I also show a film, which I know you're going to touch base on that a little bit, in my program. So how is that all going to work? And you want to make sure that you're reconnecting with all students. I mean, my program is for everybody. It's not just for the LGBTQ. So I'm thinking, like, if I were them coming home and didn't have those resources, what are they in need of? And so my program has gone and online called Still Out and Proud, and it's just reconnecting their groups and how you can have these activities, trivia nights, and talk about our history and reconnect with everybody. It's not the physical, as we all know, and being there, but at least there's a support in their little corner of the world to come together. And that's
so you're taking the existing activities, like the already popular events like trivia night, bingo, but you are making sure that they're overtly inclusive, right? Instead of you told me about drag queen bingo. If you're going to do bingo on campus, do drag queen bingo.
That's a popular Pride event, by the way. That's like that's the big thing.
Right. Well, go ahead and tell us about the movie.
All right. So 3 years ago, I decided to do a film on the Pulse nightclub shooting, which was in Orlando. Pulse nightclub was in Orlando, Florida, and I had no connection with it other than identifying as a gay man, as a man, and just broke my heart to see the death. And you know, you shake your head even with the murder of Matthew Shepard. I you know, 20-some years ago, I don't understand that. So I did a lot of researching, and you know, I watched every video and news story and everything. And then I had an opportunity to go down to Florida and speak. And while I was down there, a friend of mine, actually used to date him, Rico, said, called me Greggy. And he said, I want to meet you at Pulse nightclub. I don't want you to come there alone. And I was just going to take some photos. That's all. And I had my film camera, my video camera with me. And I didn't know what to expect, but he knew how my heart is, and being affected on that space. You know, you go into this, you know. So I went there and I was really affected by it. And I'm taking pictures and reading everything, the tapestries, the things that were written, just really powerful.
Yeah.
And I just felt a need to share that story with people that could not be there in my personal experience. And so Rico grabbed the camera from me and he started filming. And I said, I don't want this to be about me. I want just to be about the memorial. I don't want it to be about the shooter, nothing. I want to be, you know, these lives. So filmed, he did catch me in it towards the end, which really worked good. It's 13 minutes long.
Oh, cool.
So I've been back 3 times since then, and the film is done, but it's called 2:02 a.m., and that's when the shooter walked into the club. And it virtually shows the Pulse nightclub from when that horrible incident happened, and interviews, and then it closes with what it looks like now and where it's going with some really nice music. And,
that's great.
And you know, I included classrooms with it and discussion. It's not on YouTube because I want to be responsible when I do my program to engage those kind of conversations than just, you know, point and click, listen, and walk away from it. So
so I get it. So this is why you called yourself in your bio, you call yourself the novice filmmaker. Well, I think that, so Rico recognized in you that you had a platform already, that you are a recognizable figure in the community, and that you would be able to have an impact with the creation of this thing. So thanks to Rico for that. Right. And
it was great. And, you know, and going back several times, I didn't know I was going to go back several times and be asked. And it was always kind of like, oh, here I am, you know.
Right. All right. Another question. Tell me about the World Peace Conference.
Oh, my goodness. So as many people know, when you're doing gigs and speaking, you'll get local people hit you up and like, hey, can you come talk to our club? Can you, we're having a LGBT group meeting at a local high school, and you know, they can afford. And I'm like, absolutely, I show up. I usually bring little buttons and trinkets and things, you know, for the kids and stuff. So Rotary International in Evanston, Illinois, invited me to come and speak and show the Pulse film. Yeah. And so I went there, and they had invited the president of, I don't want to say the World Peace Conference, but one of the organizations that were set up in California. He flew to come see me. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, and he was a great guy. And he said, we need to have you speak at the World Peace Conference. We never had anybody queer come and speak to our crowd at all. And, you know, the Rotary group, back in the day, my parents were involved with that. It was kind of the good old boys kind of club-ish. Well, that's changed completely. So I said, you know, absolutely. And then I was sponsored by a Rotary group in Petoskey, Michigan, where I'm from. And it's people that know me. And I mean, they were so gracious and paid for hotel, flight, the whole business. Because they wanted me to go. And then I would eventually come back to their club and speak about my experience. So anyway, I went there. It was a huge event. Several thousand were there. I was one of the keynote speakers, and then I did a breakout session afterwards. And it was just amazing because there was like, I was of 3 speakers during like I think it was right after lunch. And so the other 2 speakers, I was the first one to speak. And it was they had all the technical stuff, whizzes and bangs. It was really you know. And then the other 2 people that spoke after me, one was talking about the impending virus, which we're now experiencing. Just how that looks. And then he was talking about our nuclear power and stuff. It's kind of a downer. It kind of was started up here. Like, and then another guy from a professor from a university talked about relationships and love and peace. And you could have dropped a pin in
Yeah.
the audience when he did. So we were all three part. I'll show you really quick. This is up here. When I walk off the stage, they gave me this handy little Rotary World clock.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. That's so cool. Now, hey, so you said all the bells and whistles and all the fancy tech that they had at this huge international event. I mean, you have been preparing for that moment for a long time, right? So, but were you a little bit nervous that day?
Just nervous presenting?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, because I was excited for one thing, because I flew into Palm Springs.
Ooh, fancy.
I know, fancy. Where my friends live, so I stayed there, and I was going to Ontario, California.
Yeah.
That was an hour and a half away, I believe.
Yeah.
So it gave me some processing time driving in my little rental car.
Yeah.
You never know when you're in an audience where the assumption is it was the good old boys club, or maybe they're a little more conservative, how you were going to be perceived.
Right.
Whereas when I go into a college or university, it might be the same way, but I can tell you all the queer students are usually in the first 4 or 5 rows. They're like right there. And then it's usually, the people that are taking notes for class for extra credit.
Right.
And in the back are the people that are usually not out, or parents that their child has come out, or maybe lost suicide or something for questions. So when I was there, you're looking across a crowd, and you're like, am I looking good? And all that kind of stuff. Representing, and everybody used the podium, and I took the mic off the podium and I worked the stage.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, but I had a lot of people come up afterwards saying, thank you so much. This is such a great forward motion for Rotary. And I made several connections after that. They had me on Facebook and vice versa.
Yeah, that's great. So
very positive event.
What a cool experience for you. And again, congratulations on being invited to that. But I have this vision of you on a college campus, or in the LGBTQ community. You're kind of a rock star, right? So it's like those students who are sitting in the front, they're like the ones that camped out for tickets, right?
They're like this. They're like,
tell me everything you know. All right, let's jump over to some fun facts about you. I know that behind you, and this is the fun part about our world right now, right? You have got a secret stash right behind you of something that is uniquely you. Tell us about what's hiding in those under your microwave. Tell us what's hiding under your microwave.
Oh, under my microwave. Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in my secret, I was going to pull the jars out, and I can get it right over here, actually. Several years ago, I love to cook. And so I had, I called it my house seasoning, and it was like in a little bowl, you're kind of like, dust, and so, thinking you're fancy, like, on the Food Network. And my friends are like, man, this is really good. You should do something with it, bottle it. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to get into all that. I'm busy with, my lecture work and things like that.
Yeah.
And they said, no. He goes, well, I would buy some. Well, I'm like, oh, okay. So I went down to the Old Town Spice House here in Chicago and bought my jars. And they were 1-cup jars. And I bought seasoning down the street from me, which is really convenient because I needed some applewood smoked salt. So I made a seasoning, and I had a former student that used to work for me. He was RA, because I was a residence life director. He used to call me Gregor.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, well, how cool, I'll call it Gregor's seasoning. So I made a house seasoning. I put this little hokey label on it that had probably one of my profile pictures for my work on it, kind of thing, like Gregor's seasoning, Yeah. And so I started selling it for like $10 a jar, and it was just off of Facebook.
Yeah.
So then I added a pizza pasta seasoning, Italian one. So I was with Italian, I know. And then I thought, oh no, I'm not going to do another one. Well, then 2 gay friends of mine that are a couple in Palm Springs, he is a spice purveyor, said, oh, let me send you some samples. Well, they were 5-pound jugs of seasoning. So I'm in a small 1-bedroom apartment. Like, where am I going to put all this stuff?
Yeah.
So I made my third one was a pepper extraordinaire, and it has hash green chilies in it, which
Oh
are
my gosh.
awesome. You can't find them too well.
So we no. So now you're like now you have an empire. You have a seasoning empire, right? Not only are you busy as a speaker and a virtual facilitator, but you've got this side gig, which is soon going to take over, right? It's probably like you're going to have to start getting like how much you're going to have to get warehouse space and all this crazy stuff.
Well, so I got rid of the hokey labels, but then I added 2 new seasonings during COVID because I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So I have rosemary with a twist, which is
Oh man.
salt rosemary with lemon zest in it. And then the other one is a barbecue, which people are going crazy over because they said it tastes like the barbecue seasoning on like Lay's potato chips.
No way.
Yeah. And then a marketing friend did the new labels on it, so they look really professional. So
Yeah.
like when I'm done here today, I have to go in the kitchen like.
Right, you've got an order to fill. Well, here's the cool thing. Well, you will have a bio page as part of this summit. So in that, we'll put a link to GregorSeasoning.com.
I'll hawk my wares on the page.
No, right, absolutely. Look, I know what I'm doing after this interview. My mouth is watering right now. All right, so the other fun fact about you, ready for this? All right, wait. There's a couple things here. So you said you were in residence life. That's something I didn't know. You worked at a college. I did not realize that.
I worked at Interlochen Center for the Arts, Interlochen, Michigan, part-time theater teacher, very part-time, but then I was a hall director for junior and senior high school boys. And then I moved to, because I did the summer camp thing too.
Yeah.
And so I worked at North Central Michigan College in Petoskey, Michigan from 96 to 2003 before I moved to Chicago. And I was the director of residence life and student activities and the adjunct theater and acting teacher.
Oh my gosh, I did not know these things.
Yeah, see?
That's super cool.
Now you know.
That's super cool. Well, oddly, I didn't know that, but I do know that at some point in your life, you were a huge fan of Charlie Chaplin.
Oh my gosh.
Which led to Chuckles.
Chuckles the Magical Clown.
Tell us about Chuckles the Magical Clown.
Crazy. So I lived in a small town of like 2,000 people, no theater department, nothing.
Right.
And for some reason, I always enjoyed magic, like on TV,
Yeah.
A little hand card tricks, the cards with the string on it, you go, oops, you think it's going to spill all over somebody, crazy stuff. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but kids back in the day used to do the muscular dystrophy carnivals like in their backyard.
Yeah.
So I got really involved with that, but I was in 6th grade and a girl down the end of the block was having one of these carnivals, in their backyard. And she goes, well, since you make people laugh, Greg, and you're so much fun, why don't you be a clown for us? I'm like, okay. And she goes, well, you need a name now. And so they were debating. And this girl was younger than me. She's probably 11 at the time. And she goes, why don't we call you Chuckles? So I ripped up old pajamas. I took my mother's, lipstick and put it on because there was no grease paint. Well, let me tell you, lipstick does not come off very well.
Right.
No white face. I mean, I literally probably looked like a clown serial killer with all this stuff on. And I did the backyard carnival and it grew and grew and grew. And my first professional show was when I was 8th grade. And at that time, I was kind of a hot shot. I had an assistant. And then that assistant, I had another one in between there, and then he came back. He was involved with sports, but I ended up being on my town's calendar. I was Mr. July as Chuckles. I have that somewhere. And my father owned a hardware store, and my dad was a big sports guy. Wasn't a fan of the whole Chuckles thing.
Yeah, right.
So I did that till I was maybe early 20s.
No kidding.
In the hokey, ripped apart pajama-ish, my mother's nightgown outfit that I started with. Then I had a professional clown suit.
Wow.
And rainbow wig, the whole thing. And then the Charlie Chaplin part I always loved. And I created like a hobo character. And during sidewalk sales in my hometown, I had a backdrop and the whole thing. And a little tape recorder about this big, and had music, and I would act out certain scenes on the sidewalk, and people were gathered.
Right. You're a street performer. My gosh.
Yeah. And then when I went into summer camps, I taught stage makeup. I ended up working on a couple of film projects because my experience in school and doing
Right.
shuffles.
Yeah.
And then in Connecticut, where I was performing arts director at Camp Sloan, the name just stuck, you know.
Right.
So people were calling me Chucks or Chuckles.
Oh, fun.
And when I was bullied
Yeah.
in school for doing that, when I worked with the kids that had muscular dystrophy that were like literally on death's door, they found me so endearing and like almost like a Superman. Like they would see me out and about the camp and they go, "Oh, it's Chuckles." And then I come with the outfit and they're like, "It's Chuckles," you know, kind of thing.
Right,
So they turned the name around that was bullied into something beautiful. So to this day, the only people that call me that are the ones that I have those associations with from my summer camps, and back in my hometown that remember those days.
That you're multifaceted and multi-named. You've got Chuckles. You've Gregor's Spices. You are also Greg Baird, the speaker and filmmaker. Super cool.
Thank you.
It's been really fun chatting with you today. What advice could you give to some higher ed advisors, folks in the field today, moving forward into the fall, on what they could do to make the world more in the vision of Greg Baird?
I would say be open-minded and inclusive of all of your students. And you may have those different organizations on your campus, but now more than ever, we need to bring those organizations together. Maybe on campus, they were kind of a separate entity, which works fantastic, and they provided their own services. But now more than ever, since we're so scattered, and we don't know what's going on, or a limited amount of what's going on, we need to come together and be inclusive and share those ideas and things that are working virtually and things that maybe are challenging, but we can do a different twist on to make it more positive. And you know, keep your head up and things. And the way that I've kind of run my life is I put a lot of positivity out on Facebook, quotes, historical things on LGBTQ facts. It's just, you need to extend that positivity and go forward, because you can turn on the TV or wherever and it's doom and gloom right away. And be informed, but make your areas at your schools informed in a positive way that's going to affect all of those students that are trying to reconnect through all this. You know, they're not only figuring out schooling, degrees, do I come to school, if I choose to do remote learning or not. So, you know, and share those ideas like what you're doing, Jason. Share those ideas and those thoughts and those activities to bring people together.
Right. Thank you. And so you're saying, like, incorporate everything into everything. Connect with other people. Incorporate into the existing activities. And I love your positivity. And I love your spices. I love your spices. I am super excited. As soon as I get off this call, I'm going to get some.
I'm going to do this really quick.
Yeah. Show us a jar. Show us a jar.
These are the mini jars. These are the mini jars.
You've got different sizes now.
No. I made these for me because they fit my slice rack. But this is a smaller version of the label. So this is the pizza pasta one.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool. Okay.
Pepper.
But wait a minute. Okay, hold on. You customize labels for yourself in your own kitchen?
So I have a friend that I saw last Thanksgiving. He goes, you know, he saw my old label and he says, you know, he goes, I do marketing professionally. He goes, how about if I design new labels for you?
Nice.
So he did, and then he didn't charge me for the first 3, and then the other 2 I couldn't. So the other 2 I paid him and gave him the whole set.
Yeah. So wait a minute. Can I? Okay, no. All right, I'm not going to ask you more about your spices. I'm going to go do my research. Thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome hanging out with you.
Same here.
I feel like high five. I feel like tens. I feel like hugs with you. It's been awesome. Thanks again for everything. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too so much.
I'll see you soon.
All right.